in Australia, Thermomix consultant, as you all know by now, probably know me quite well by now. May is baking month with Thermomix in Australia, and I love to bake. I think it was something I picked up from my mum. She used to bake a lot when I was a kid, and I was always at her apron strings just trying to get my finger in the cookie dough or whatever. So are you a savoury or a sweet person, or both? I actually think I'm more of a savoury person. I do like the occasional cake, but I actually love my savoury flans, I love breads, and I love cheese. And the recipe that I'm going to do today is one that's been on my to try list for quite some time. It's a combination of two of those favourite things, cheese and bread, and it's cheese churek or Iraqi cheese pies. So they look a little bit like bagels, and the cheese filling goes on the inside of the bread. It's a recipe that's on cookie dough. So I've actually got it in my weekly planner, something that I've been a little bit slack on recently. I'm going to try and get a little bit more back into my weekly planning. So if I just go to the 3 lines and my week, it's actually in here as cooked today. So let's get started. Start cooking. So it's actually quite a rich bread dough this. It's a little bit like a brioche. I'm just going to start by adding some water. I'm actually making half quantities here too, because the full recipe makes 12 and there's only 2 of us, although we do have some family to share with, but I'm just going to make the half recipe today. Some butter cut into pieces and some milk. Sugar and some instant dried yeast are going in. They're both in this little bowl. Insert the measuring cup into the mixing bowl lid, which just means put your lid on. And next, we're just going to melt that butter 2 minutes at 37 degrees and just to speed 3. It's going to bring the temperature of the liquids up to the perfect temperature for activating the yeast. Yeast is a living organism and it feeds off carbohydrates. So adding a little bit of sugar, we're just going to give that yeast a little bit of something to get its teeth into, so to speak, before we add the flour, which of course is going to be its main source of nourishment. And as it eats, it's going to be giving off carbon dioxide, causing the dough to expand. Just in the last few seconds here. Okay, next, going to remove the measuring cup. Actually, that doesn't mean to remove the measuring cup. Now I've got 30 seconds at speed 3. And we're going to add an egg through the mixing bowl lid whilst that's mixing in there. And next, we're going to add flour next. I'm actually just going to scrape off the lid because there's a little bit of yeast and liquid up here that I want to make sure is incorporated into the dough. So although it's not actually telling me to do this, you just use your common sense when you're baking or cooking anything really. If you think, oh, there's a bit of stuff on the lid or a bit of stuff in the bowl, let's just push it down a little bit, then go for it. You're still in charge, you're still the cook, even though you've got a guided recipe here. You're still the one who's got all the skills. All right, now we're going to add some baker's flour. So this is just a strong baker's flour. A little bit of salt going in there. Insert the measuring cup into the lid. It's actually just going to go straight into a knead here. I'm actually just going to go to home and I'm just going to give it a few seconds on speed 3 up to about 4. So that's just actually going to mix all the ingredients together, and I'll just show you that. So we've just got a crumbly dough there now. So I do actually like to mix my bread dough ingredients before I start to knead them. So let's just go back to the recipe by touching the bookmark there, and it's the dough mode. The dough mode's come up automatically. And it's 3 minutes, so I'm just going to turn the knob there and it'll knead for 3 minutes. So the one thing you should never do when you're kneading is to leave your Thermomix, because this is only a small amount of dough, but if you've got a full bowl up to say 700 grams of flour, it's actually going to rock and roll a little bit, and you certainly don't want your Thermomix to water the bench. So whilst you can leave your Thermomix to do other things, most of the time when it's kneading, you need to sort of be at least within line of sight so that you can make sure that nothing untoward is going to happen. So whilst it's kneading, I've actually just taken the measuring cup off, had a little peep inside just to make sure that the dough is the right consistency. I've also just got my thermomat out ready, because I'm actually going to use my thermomat to wrap up the dough and let it rise in there. The recipe does actually say to get a large bowl and to grease it. So mode is done. Transfer the dough into the prepared bowl. I'm actually just going to tip this out onto my thermomat. You can see, if you just twist the knob at the bottom of the bowl, the dough will just fall out. There's hardly anything left in here, but if the dough is ever a little bit sticky, you can just use turbo or a short burst of speed 9 to 10, and that will just send the dough off the blades and onto the side wall, so then you can scrape it out really easily. So I'm just going to bring this together. There's a little bit of flour on this mat just to make sure that it's not too sticky. And it's telling me here, cover with cling film or a damp tea towel and allow to rest in a warm place until doubled in size. So now I've got this as a nice dough ball. I'm just going to wrap it in the thermomat. Make it into a nice little parcel. And there are a couple of things I can do with this. Well, probably more than 2 things. I can just leave it at room temperature and leave it for however long it takes to double in size. I could put it on top of a thermo server with some warm water in it. I could pop it in my varoma with some water in the bowl on the fermentation mode, and that will help to speed it up. So I am just a little bit impatient sometimes. So I'm actually going to just pop this into the oven. The oven's been on, it's just slightly warm, so that little bit of residual heat is really going to help my dough to rise. And then we'll talk a little bit about the cheese filling and how you prepare that. So whilst the dough is rising, I've actually made the cheese filling. There are steps that you go through further on in the recipe, but I thought, well, why wait? Why not just do it now? And it's a mixture of feta, halloumi, and mozzarella cheese. You need to crumble the feta, small dice the mozzarella and the halloumi, and then just mix them all up. It's 75 grams of feta, 110 of halloumi, and 90 of mozzarella. So that's just going to wait there now until the dough is ready, and then we will shape and bake the breads. Okay, so the dough has risen, and I've taken it out of its little warm spot in the oven. So unwrap it. Just going to knock it back slightly. So we're going to now just divide this dough into 6 pieces, and it says about 90 grams each. So I'm actually going to weigh just to get an idea that they're all pretty even. So you can, obviously you don't want to use a sharp knife on your thermomat. I'm going to go to home, slide across the scales. See how much that is. 92 there. So I've got my 6 evenly sized dough balls. They worked out to about 97 grams each. And I've just rolled out the first one. We want to roll it out to about 30 centimetres by 10 centimetres. And of course that's really easy when you've got the measurements on the side of your thermomats. And it's a nice, soft, pliable dough. I'll just put that one at the top here and take the next one. I'm just going to lightly flour the thermomat again. Put it roughly into a rectangle shape. Just roll it out, turn it over. Yes, it's a nice pliable dough. 30 by 10 centimetres. Put approximately 1/6 of the cheese mixture along the long edge of the roll. It's a bit like making sausage rolls really, I guess. So that we've got a dough rather than a pastry. Just roll this cheese. So as I said before, this is a mixture of feta, mozzarella and halloumi. Roll the dough over the filling. You can actually use your thermomat to help roll as well, but I've got other things on it, so we will just roll it with our fingers. We just want to, I think, moisten a little bit of water, the edge of the dough here, so that it's going to stick together. There we go. Roll it over, and then we're just going to bring it around and bring the two edges together to form a nice circle. I'm going to transfer this now to another baking tray. So we've got our first dough circle on the baking tray. You need to brush that with a little milk or a bit of an egg wash if you prefer. And then we're going to sprinkle it with sesame seeds. The recipe doesn't actually say to give it a second proving, it says to bake it from here. Okay, so I've got them all shaped, filled with a little cheese filling, and now I'm going to pop them into the oven. The oven is still just a little bit warm, so I'm just going to leave them for 10 minutes and then I'm going to whack the temperature up to 180 degrees and they cook for 20 minutes at 180 degrees. Alright, I'll show you them when they're finished. Okay, so these have just come out of the oven. They look good, smell good, and hopefully they taste good too. Just have to get them a little bit closer. A little bit of leakage of the cheese filling, so next time I'll probably have to try and make sure that I seal them a little bit better. Okay, well thanks for joining me. I'd love to know whether you're a sweet or a savoury baker. And pop some comments in the comment boxes after the video and let me know what you like to cook. Okay, well take care. I shall be baking again in the next few days, no doubt. So I shall be back on and talk to you again then. Alright, love you lots. Ciao for now.